The first knife went missing on a Tuesday. Not a big chef's knife, just the short serrated one I use for everything. I noticed when I got home, went to slice a tomato, and grabbed air where it should have been. I dumped the whole drawer on the counter, checked behind the stove, even lay on the floor, and reached under the fridge. Nothing. I blamed the sink, the trash, my own shitty memory. I slit the garbage bag, dug through coffee grounds until the kitchen stank. Still nothing. I lived alone, worked late, forgot things, so I told myself it would turn up jammed under something and tried to let it go. It still sat in my head the next day. That knife had been there for years. Same place, same slot. Wednesday morning, I checked again before work like it might have grown back overnight. Same gap like a missing tooth. All shift at the warehouse, I kept thinking about it, picturing someone standing in my kitchen, opening my drawer, deciding that one knife was worth taking. By the time I clocked out, I'd convinced myself I'd walked around with it on a plate and kicked it under the couch. So I tore the place up when I got home. Cushions on the floor, mattress tilted, bathroom trash dumped in the tub. Nothing. Thursday, another one disappeared. The long, thin one I used for chicken. I knew I'd left it drying by the sink. When I went to grab it after my shower, there was just a wet outline on the towel, the exact shape of where it had been. That detail got under my skin. Someone had lifted it up not long before. I walked the apartment with my keys between my fingers, checking every door and window. Deadbolt fine. Chain fine. No scratches. Windows locked. I stood in the hallway and tried to picture somebody slipping in and out while I shampoo my hair. The walls felt closer after that. Little things started to feel off. My coffee mug ended up on the wrong shelf. My phone charger moved from one outlet to another. Could have been me, sure, but every time I noticed one of those changes, my stomach clenched like I'd swallowed ice. I went downstairs and asked the landlord if maintenance had been in my unit. He didn't even look up from his phone. "No one's been in there," he said. When I pushed, he added, "Then stop losing your shit," and waved me away. By Friday, the knives were back. All of them, lined up on the counter, blades facing me, handles perfectly parallel. I stopped in the doorway like I'd walked in on a stranger. The drawer sat open 2 inches, like a hand had just slid out. I don't line up anything in my life, believe me. My bills live in a pile on a chair. My socks live on the floor. Those knives looked like a catalog photo. The serrated one lounged in the front like it never left. My first thought was that someone had a key. Second thought, they'd been here while I slept. I didn't touch the knives. I walked the perimeter instead like a cheap security guard. Door solid. Deadbolt turned. Chain across. Windows locked. Metal latches stiff. No fresh scuffs. No prime marks. Nothing broken. It looked like an untouched apartment with a neat little row of weapons waiting on the counter. I told myself I'd done it drunk and forgotten, felt stupid, went to bed. I hadn't had a drink all week, but I wanted the lie more than I wanted the truth. My body didn't believe it. I lay there in my gray t-shirt, staring at the closet door, counting my breaths. The building groaned, pipes clicked, somebody upstairs stomped around, and every sound landed like a footstep right by my bed. I kept checking my phone just to have light in my hand. At some point, my eyes finally shut. At 3:17 a.m., my phone buzzed on the nightstand. That time burned itself in instantly. One new photo. No number, just unknown. I didn't think. I unlocked the screen and tapped. It was me, sleeping, mouth open, same gray t-shirt I had on right then. The angle was from the closet door. You could see the mess of cables on the floor, the dent in the pillow, the lamp I'd moved yesterday, sitting in its new spot. It wasn't some old picture. It was right now from somewhere I couldn't see. Everything inside went quiet. No breath, no thoughts, just that image of my own limp face. Then the panic hit all at once. I launched out of bed, hit the lights, yanked that closet open so hard the bar snapped. Hangers clanged to the floor. Empty. Just my clothes and the smell of dust. No camera on the wall, no phone hidden on a shelf. Bare drywall, nothing else. My heart hammered so hard I saw spots. I dropped and checked under the bed, shoved my hands along the baseboards, half expecting fingers to grab me back. I pulled the dresser away from the wall until drawers tumbled onto my feet. Nothing. The door chain still hung across the frame, swaying a little from where I'd burst through. Bathroom clear. Shower clear. Behind the curtain, under the sink clear. Every corner empty except the one in my head where somebody had already stood. By the time I dialed 911, my hands shook so badly I kept hitting the voicemail icon. Saying it all out loud made it sound even crazier. The missing knives, the lineup on the counter, the photo from inside my bedroom. My voice cracked on the words sleeping. Hearing that break pissed me off almost as much as the fear. 2 cops showed up. One older guy with bags under his eyes, one younger one with a bored smirk. They did a slow walk through, checked the windows, checked the door, glanced in the closet with its broken bar and scattered hangers. No forced entry. They said like that was the beginning and end of everything. I kept pointing at the locked deadbolt, the chain, the fact that nothing was broken. They kept shrugging at the lack of splinters like that proved I dreamed it. When I showed them the photo, they finally leaned in. The younger one zoomed in and out a couple times, then said, "Could be an old picture you forgot about." I told him about the lamp I'd moved yesterday, the missing closet bar in the background, the new scratch on the headboard. He wrote something in his little notebook without nodding. The older guy asked if I'd been drinking or taking anything. I said no. His eyes flicked to the empty bottles by the trash and went flat. "Not tonight," I snapped. They asked if anyone else had a key. I said no. I told them I didn't have people over, didn't have family nearby, didn't have some prankster friend who knew my building. "Maybe a friend fucked with you," the younger one said anyway, sticking to his line. The word friend felt like a joke. I told him again there was no one. He shrugged, like maybe I'd staged it to scare myself. I laughed at that, a short, ugly sound I couldn't stop. If I'd staged it, why would I call them? The cops wrote a report, shrugged at the locked door, said maybe a friend fucked with me. The older one handed me a card with a case number and told me to call if anything else happened. I watched them walk down the hall talking about food. Door shit. Their footsteps faded. I was alone again in the place where someone else had already proven they weren't supposed to exist. After they left, the apartment felt hollow and crowded at the same time. I turned the TV on for noise, but kept the volume low, like I didn't want to cover up any sound I needed to hear. I walked the same loop they had, checked the same doors, stared at the same empty corners. No cameras, no holes in the walls, no explanation, just my life, slightly rearranged, and a photo that shouldn't exist sitting in my pocket like a hot coin. I unplugged the microwave camera I never bought and slept with a hammer after that. I dug it out of the toolbox and put it on the pillow next to me, handle under my fingers. I moved the knives back into the drawer, but left the drawer open an inch so I'd hear it if someone touched it. I jammed a chair under the doorknob. I knew none of it really mattered if someone already knew how to get past the locks, but I needed layers between me and whoever had stood in my doorway with my own phone. For a while, I woke up around 3:17 without even needing the alarm, heart racing, hand tied on the hammer. No new photos showed up, but I checked my gallery anyway every night before I tried to sleep. That picture of me with my mouth open and my eyes shut stayed there, timestamp and all. I still haven't deleted it. Part of me thinks if I erase it, this all collapses into some stress episode one invented. Another part knows whoever took it probably has their own copy saved somewhere, maybe set as a wallpaper, maybe buried in a folder with other people who snore in gray shirts. Now I double-check my drawers before I leave and when I come back. If a fork sits wrong, I fix it, then fix it again. I flinch when my phone buzzes after midnight. I picture some patient bastard who knows every squeak in my floor, standing in my closet in the dark, phone in one hand, one of my knives in the other, waiting for my breathing to slow. Moving apartments didn't fix that feeling. Locks are just suggestions to somebody who's already been inside. Whoever took that picture, let's never fucking meet. The argument with the landlord started over mold and ended with him screaming through the phone that this is my property. I didn't like the way he stressed I changed the lock on my dime and dared him to deduct it from the deposit. Thing is, the mold wasn't small. It crawled up the bedroom wall in dark veins behind the dresser under the window. My clothes smelled wet even when they were dry. I sent him pictures. He sent back emojis and just crack a window like that thick spore's already inside my lungs. I started coughing at night. My chest itched. I pulled the bed away from the wall one day and saw that big black bloom, and something in me snapped. I told him I'd call the city. He told me, go ahead in that bored way, but his voice went sharper when I said his full name out loud. We argued until my hand shook around the phone. He said, you think you can tell me what to do in my building? I said, I pay to live here, not rot here. Then he dropped that line. This is my property, like a threat, like a dog baring teeth. Not the building, not the unit. My property. After I hung up, the apartment felt smaller. The mold patch looked bigger. I kept imagining him with a key, just walking in while I slept, standing over the bed. The lock suddenly felt like paper. So I went to a hardware store, picked the most expensive deadbolt like I was buying armor, and changed it myself. My hands fumbled, but I got it done. Metal shavings on the floor, old screws, and a little pile like dead teeth. I texted him a photo of the new lock with a short message. Done. Take it out of the deposit. I dare you. He left me on read. No reply. That silence bothered me more than the yelling. That first night with the new lock, I heard the handle test itself at 1 a.m. Quick, annoyed rattles, then one slow turn like a hand thinking. I froze on the couch, TV still on mute from earlier. No knock, just trying. My body went rigid before my brain caught up. You know, when your stomach drops, like missing a step in the dark? It was that, stretched out. I watched the door instead of the TV, watched the tiny shadow of the handle jerk, pause, jerk again. Whoever, it was already knew there was a new lock. They didn't even bother to pretend they were at the wrong place. It was deliberate, impatient. I remember noticing stupid details. The glow from the streetlight under the door looked thinner than usual, like something blocked part of it. The fridge motor clicked off in the kitchen, and suddenly I could hear breathing under the metal scrape. Not in the hall, right up against the door. Whoever stood there took slow, angry breaths, like they were chewing on their own rage. I crept to the peephole. He stood there, hoodie up, stocking cap, breathing too hard for a short hallway. He saw the shadow under the door, leaned closer, and whispered, "You don't get to lock me out of my own place." Then he walked away, no stair sounds, nothing. That last part got into my head and never left. I waited for the stairwell to echo, for the elevator ding, for anything, but the building swallowed him. I slid the chain across, even though it did nothing against that deadbolt, then shoved a chair under the knob like some movie cliche. I didn't sleep. I just sat on the couch and stared at the door, hearing phantom rattles every time the pipes coughed. In the morning, I opened the door slow, half expecting him to still stand there, nose to the wood. Empty hallway, carpet flat, no footprints in that thin dust line near my door that I always meant to vacuum. If it wasn't for the memory of his breath fogging the peephole glass, I could have convinced myself I dreamed it. Next day, he denied everything, laughed, called me paranoid. Fine. I bought a door wedge, a bar, all that Amazon panic gear. When I confronted him, he leaned in the doorway of the downstairs office like he owned the air too. He grinned that fake calm grin. If I wanted to come in, I'd give you notice. You think I had time to stand outside people's doors? His eyes did this little dart past my shoulder, checking the hallway camera that never worked. Then he looked back at me and said, "You should sleep more. You look stressed." That felt worse than if he'd screamed. So I went full paranoid. I ordered a metal bar that jammed under the knob, a heavy wedge that scuffed the floor, a cheap little camera I stuck on top of the bookshelf pointing at the door. The kind that uploads to the cloud in 10-second clips every time it thinks something moves. It kept recording headlights through the peephole, shadows from the hallway, my own arm when I walked too fast. But nothing of him. Nights stretched weird after that. I'd sit with the TV on low and the volume turned down so I could hear any noise at the door. Every creak in the hallway made my neck ache from snapping toward it. I started sleeping with my keys in my hand. I put a knife under the couch cushion, then moved it to the coffee table drawer because I didn't trust myself not to cut my own leg in my sleep. People always say, "Why didn't you just move?" Like moving is free. Like first and last month's rent and a deposit magically appear because you feel unsafe. So yeah, I stayed. I told myself I'd ride out the lease and then bail. He'd lose a paying tenant. I'd win quietly. That logic felt solid at 2 p.m. It crumbled at 2 a.m. A week later, I came home, bar still in place, wedge still jammed, but every cabinet stood open. Every drawer. Bathroom too. Nothing missing except my laundry basket and 2 pairs of underwear. That moment is burned into me. The door opened normally. No scrape, no splintered frame, no sign of forced anything. I stepped over the threshold and the air felt wrong, stirred up like someone just walked through and the room hadn't settled yet. Kitchen first. Every cabinet door pulled wide, like a mouth mid-scream. Glasses exposed, plates stacked, cereal box turned, so the cartoon mascot stared straight at me. In the bedroom, dresser drawers gaped, my shirts hanging halfway out, socks scattered like someone grabbed handfuls and dropped them. Closet door slid all the way open. My shoes nudged out of line just a little. Bathroom cabinet emptied onto the counter, pills and toothpaste and razors. Shower curtain pulled back. Toilet lit up. It didn't look like a robbery. It looked like a search. I noticed the missing laundry basket last because you never look for what's usually just there. The corner of the room where it sat looked naked. I checked the laundry room downstairs. Nothing. I went back up and only then realized 2 pairs of underwear were gone from the drawer. Not the top ones, either, the ones I kept toward the back. That detail made my skin crawl more than if he'd stolen a TV. TVs are just money. This was me. My brain split in two. One part wanted to puke. The other tried to replay my own movements. Did I leave a cabinet open this morning? Did I rush out and forget? But you don't forget opening every single thing you can open. You don't misplace a whole basket and exactly 2 pairs of underwear. Someone took their time in my space. Someone touched everything. The cops asked if I maybe left it that way. The landlord smiled behind them like a fucking saint. No prov, no crime. I moved out with 3 friends there, middle of the day, and still felt watched the whole time. My dog usually barked at everything. Squirrels, wind, his own farts. That night, he stared at the back door and whined instead. Ears flat, whole body shaking. That scared me more than any bark. It hit me wrong because that dog never shut up. I used to yell at him and knock it off, threaten to buy a shock collar, fight with a neighbor about your damn dog at 2 a.m., and all that, but seeing him there pressed low to the tile, nails skittering while he tried to back away from a closed door like it might open by itself, my stomach just dropped. I muted the TV first, then actually killed it when the canned laughter kept going. It felt wrong with him like that. The room fell quiet fast. You don't realize how many little noises a house makes until you listen for something else. Fridge hum, clock tick, my own breathing, his soft whine cutting through it. I killed the TV and listened. Someone scraped along the outside siding, low and slow, like a shovel or a branch. It didn't match the rhythm of a branch in wind. It dragged, paused, dragged again, like someone tested spots. I told myself it was storm noise and checked the kitchen anyway, even though the weather app had shown clear skies and I hadn't heard a single gust all evening. I walked through the dark dining room and suddenly hated every window, every thin line of glass between me and outside. The dog glued himself to my heel, then fell behind like he wanted me close but wanted the door far. The porch light glowed over empty steps. No wind, no rain, just that scraping sound closer to the door now, right below the window this time, like metal against the threshold. My hand shook when I flicked the deadbolt just to feel it locked, like that skinny bit of metal mattered. I stood there staring at my own pale reflection in the glass, heart going like I'd sprinted, while the sound moved from the bottom of the door to the wall beside it slow, deliberate, tracing the outline. Every true crime podcast I'd ever half listened to came back all at once. I grabbed the biggest pan I owned because my actual bat was in the fucking garage. Genius move. The weight of the pan felt stupid and heavy and wrong in my sweaty hand, but it was something. I actually got mad at myself in that second, standing there barefoot in an old t-shirt, holding a frying pan like a cartoon, thinking about how many times I'd said I'd really fix up the security when I moved in and never did. The dog backed up as I approached the glass. He didn't bark, just growled low, the kind of sound that vibrates more than you hear it. A face loomed up, too close, nose almost touching, breath fogging the pain. I didn't get warning. 1 second, just my reflection in the dark backyard. Next second, this face filled everything. Dude Wallaski-musk. Not one of those thin party ones either. It looked thick, tight black with rough cutouts. The eyes behind it were the only thing that didn't seem dull. He tilted his head like he was studying me in a zoo, like I was the one trapped in glass, not him. I froze, pan half raised, because my brain just stopped. There wasn't some heroic instinct. It was like someone unplugged me. I remember noticing how his breath left these wet ovals on the glass, how quiet he stayed. No banging, no yelling, just that stare. Then he lifted something black and heavy. My eyes jumped to it too late to really see details, some kind of tool, maybe a pry bar or a jack, I don't know. It hit the glass once, twice, spiderwebbing the inner layer. The sound wasn't a nice, clean smash like in movies. It cracked sharp and then hissed as the crack spread. Safety glass held barely. White lines shot across the pane like veins. Tiny pieces rained into the bottom track. I felt the thud in my chest through the door. I screamed, this raw, broken sound I didn't know I could make. He hit it again, and my dog finally lost it and launched at the door. That's what broke the freeze. 1 second he cowered. Next second he turned into teeth in fury, nails scraping across tile, as he threw himself so hard at the door the whole frame shook. Spit smeared across the already cracked glass. He barked like he wanted to tear the world apart. For half a second I thought, good, get him like my dog could punch through. The guy stopped. Just stopped. The silence hit harder than the blows. He stared through the cracked glass at my dog's teeth, then at me like he weighed something in his head and didn't like the math. He didn't flinch, didn't step back from the dog's barking inches from his face. Instead, he slowly lowered whatever tool he'd used. I noticed then there were gloves, thick ones, and no skin. No identifying marks, nothing. Then he slowly stepped backward off the porch. Never ran, just walked into the dark like he had all night, steps measured, like this was practice, not a failed attempt. I stood there shaking, dog still going berserk, pan raised like an idiot, until the darkness swallowed him completely. You'd think I'd move right away, call 911 on instinct, but I didn't. I stayed glued there long enough for my arm to hurt, long enough for the dog's barks to turn hoarse. Only when the porch light timer clicked off and threw everything into full black did I drop the pan, scramble for my phone, and nearly drop that too. The 911 operator kept her voice calm, almost bored, while I stumbled through what happened. I remember hearing myself say, he tried to break in, he fucking tried to break in, like if I phrased it differently they'd take it more seriously. She asked if he was still there. I snapped, how the hell would I know? I'm not going outside. Then immediately apologized because I needed her more than she needed me. She told me to stay inside, stay on the line, move away from the door. I backed into the hallway, dragged the dog by his collar, even though he fought me to stay facing that door, every muscle locked. Those 10-15 minutes waiting for sirens felt longer than the whole encounter. Every tiny sound became footsteps. Every car passing down the street became him circling back. At one point, my porch step creaked, and I almost pissed myself, even though I knew old would pops on its own. When the lights finally flashed blue and red across the walls, my legs almost gave out. 2 officers came in, guns holstered but hands near them, like maybe they expected him to still be inside. They checked the backyard first while I hovered uselessly in the kitchen, dog stuck to my leg. When they opened the door, the top of the shattered glass flexed, and sprinkled more bits into the threshold. One of them whistled low when he saw the spiderweb pane, then gave me that look, the one that says this could have gone worse without words. They swept the yard with flashlights while I watched through the cracked door like a nosy neighbor. The beams slid over the fence, the patchy grass, the old sandbox the previous owner left behind. Then they found the footprints. Police found fresh footprints circling the house, all the windows, all the weak locks, and one set on the kid's bedroom window I never got to use because I live alone. That part stuck like a splinter. That window sits higher off the ground. You have to want to look into it. It's the room with the boxes, the old stuffed animals, the crib I never disassembled, the stupid hopeful paint I put up before life went sideways and alone became permanent. I called it the kids' room in my head like some kind of sick joke. Hearing the cops say kid's bedroom window out loud in that neutral report voice made my skin crawl. He stood under that window. He looked in. He saw the crib, the toys, the ghosts of something I never got. And he still chose the back door where I sat alone watching TV, like he knew I didn't have anyone else there. They kept asking the same questions in slightly different ways. Had I noticed anyone following me? Any cars parked too long? Any exes or pissed off coworkers? I kept saying no and feeling like I was lying because it remembers every weird car or stare. One officer suggested it might just be a crime of opportunity, some random guy looking for an easy score. The other glanced at the prints under all the windows and didn't agree. I saw in his face. This wasn't random. This guy took his time. He walked the whole perimeter, checked the cheap locks I'd been meaning to replace. He stood under the one window that hurt most to think about and stared in any way. They dusted the door, took photos, logged the tool marks on the trim. They said all the things they have to say. We'll patrol more in this area. Make sure you keep everything locked. Get a camera if you can. I nodded, answered, signed, pretended to be a functional adult, while my dog shook so hard his tags clinked. After they left, the silence came back twice as loud. Every time the fridge cycled, I jumped. Every little car light sliding across the wall made my heart spike. I couldn't bring myself to sleep in my bedroom that night. I curled up on the couch with the dog pressed against my side, the busted back door staring at me from the kitchen like a missing tooth. For weeks after, I argued with everyone about it. My sister told me I should move, that the neighborhood had gone bad. My neighbor said I was overreacting, that it was probably just some junkie who got scared off by the dog. I wanted to scream at them that junkies don't usually move that slow, that careful, that quiet. That junkies don't stand inches from your face and tilt their head like they want to see exactly what you'll do. Nobody else saw those eyes. Nobody else heard the difference between a branch and wind and metal tracing your walls. Nights turned into countdowns to sunrise. I bought cameras, alarms, motion lights that lit up half the yard if a raccoon sneezed. I started carrying that bat inside the house like some paranoid movie cliche. The dog changed too. He still barked at stupid stuff, but when he went quiet and just stared at that door, I felt my blood run cold. Sometimes I wake up to him sitting there, facing the steel, ears half back, not growling, not whining, just watching like he remembered something I couldn't see. They never caught him. I replaced the back door with steel and still jump when the dog goes quiet.